So shifting gears for a second, there's an update on the Luigi Mangione, the suspect in the shooting of the CEO, the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, that has turned into this kind of viral cultural discussion back and forth. People supporting the CEO, people supporting Luigi Mangione. It has become this discussion. I think mostly ignoring the actual discussion at hand, which is why people agree that regardless of how you feel about the murder itself, the discussion of healthcare in America is definitely something needed because it's something that all people, all walks of life, all people, whether you're conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, independent, black, white, whoever you are, can agree it is an absolute mess. It is an absolute catastrophe. And that's speaking on someone that has healthcare here in Canada. We have basic healthcare, but also because of we have private insurers here in Canada, they're trying to stamp out our public healthcare. They're trying to purposely undermine our politicians to extract away from healthcare measures, extract away more financing to preserve basic public healthcare, which is something that Tommy Douglas envisioned here in Canada back in 1968. That's being demised. So, I've read all the stories. I've seen go on to Reddit, go talk to someone on the street, ask them about their health care, and you could hear the exact same thing, that private healthcare insurance is just an absolute scummy industry. Absolutely scummy industry. So, here, Luigi Mangione charged with first-degree murder as an act of terrorism, according from the site Straight Arrow News, which I've never heard of them before. They must be fairly new. But look at unbiased, straight facts. Talk about some news organization that's insecure, am I right? Ew. So here's the article here. It says a Manhattan grand jury indicted Luigi Mangione for first-degree murder as an act of terrorism in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. A Manhattan district attorney, Alvin Bragg, of course, get the corrupt judge that falsely prosecuted Donald Trump, that was a sham trial, was a sham criminal court case. The same guy that also did the sham charging of Daniel Penny, the subway incident. Get the same corrupt bastard. Of course. Alvin Bragg called the attack a frightening, well-planned, targeted murder intended to cause shock and intimidation. The indictment listed 11 charges, including 2 counts of second-degree murder and multiple weapons and forgery offenses. If convicted, he faces a sentence of life in prison without parole. Investigators say Mangione, 26 years old, targeted Thompson as a part of a broader grievance against the healthcare industry. Officers discovered a notebook and handwritten materials criticizing large corporations, including United Healthcare. Police say shell casings at the scene bore inscriptions of deny, depose, and delay, an emphasis on the deliberation nature of the attack. Thompson suffered 2 gunshot wounds, one in the back and one other in the leg, while walking near a busy Manhattan motel. The shooting shook residents and business leaders, raising public safety concerns. Police arrested Mangione on December 9th at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after a multi-state manhunt. Officers recovered a gun, fake identification, and additional writings at the time of the arrest. Now, I have to say, because we did a bit of a deep dive last week about who this guy was, Luigi Mangione. This guy is a very smart individual. This guy is a fairly smart individual. This is not just a rando guy. This is a top tier valedictorian, went to the best Ivy League schools. He's in computer sciences, got top of his class. This guy is the creme of the crop. And he knew exactly what he's doing. Given the information that we know about this guy, do you not find it all suspicious? I find it suspicious, but I'm asking you guys. Do you not find it all suspicious that a man who is smart enough to figure out where the CEO was going to be in Manhattan, exactly what street at what time, going to whatever venue, attacked him, shot him down, but did not throw away the weapon in use or the inscription, the notebook, which had his manifesto. I just find that so crazy. Out of all that's going on, after everything we know about this guy, like, obviously, this is a smart individual. He knew exactly where Brian Thompson was going to be in Manhattan. And Manhattan, New York City, is a fairly large place. Like, you can get lost easily. Even New Yorkers can vouch for that. But this guy knew exactly where where Brian Thompson was going to be on that street. He shot him down, but didn't throw out the weapon that was in use or the manifesto. That's like one of the big things that murderers do when it comes to that. And I know that just from watching Forensic Files and reruns of CSI. Like, that's the basic of basic. You don't keep it with you, especially going to McDonald's. A McDonald's in Pennsylvania. And that's another thing. How did this guy get from Manhattan to Altoona, Pennsylvania in just a short period? How is that possible? And for what we know, all he had for mode of transportation was an e-bike. I know for a fact an e-bike cannot go from the middle of Manhattan all the way to friggin' Pennsylvania. Especially wherever Altoona is. There's so many questions to this. So many questions, so many concerns. And, I have stated that I don't condone what Luigi Mangione did, but I sympathize with the greater, bigger picture of this. And so do a lot of people. And that is why so many people have stormed on social media. I've done this viral collaboration, got people together to talk about how horrific healthcare is in the United States. People like Bill Burr has even spoke out about this. We know that the Daily Wire were trying to salvage the CEO, trying to demonize people for saying, how dare you applaud murder? And their own audience even attacked them by saying, we're not applauding the murder. We're saying that healthcare is a distraught in America and needs to be reformed and needs to be looked at. They're not even mentioning the public option. Not even the public option gets a breath of air in American politics. And that's something that Joe Biden ran on. That's literally the basis of basis we could be doing right now, and that's not even being mentioned. So, there's more to this. Mangione remains in custody in Pennsylvania, where he faces additional charges. He is scheduled for 2 hearings on Thursday, December 19th, which is tomorrow, actually, or whenever you're watching this. One hearing will address his extradition to New York to face his murder charges. The New York Police Department warned of potential threats against corporate executives following the killing. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch denounced the crime and criticized social media users who celebrated the attack. She called the shooting vile, reckless, and offensive to our deeply held principles of justice. You mean the deeply held principles of letting thousands of people get denied coverage, not investigating United Healthcare, not investigating the sinister acts of them providing healthcare insurance and then easily denying them because they have legal loopholes to screw people over? Just like every other private healthcare insurer right now, the corporate insurers in America, they're also in similar paths to this. Again, I'm not condoning the murder. No one's condoning the murder. We're not like Taylor Lorenz crazy. We're saying that the healthcare industry is such a wreck that we sympathize with people. We sympathize with people on why exactly there's such a presence against someone like Brian Thompson. And it's not to do with wokeness. It's nothing to do with the fact that he's a CEO. It's the fact that it is part of a deep, dark industry, a mafia industry that is absolutely heinous against giving people corrective coverage that they paid for. So this even got attention to places like Joe Rogan, for example. And Joe Rogan is going to comment on the CEO killing about Luigi Mangione on his show here. I don't know who he has with this as guest. And there's comment about this. And CNN went after Joe Rogan. CNN went after Joe Rogan because anytime they can get an opportunity to smack down someone like Joe Rogan, even though Joe Rogan is correct, like he was with COVID and ivermectin, like the fact that he brought on Dr. Robert Malone, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Pierre Corey, he brought in physicians, even when he's right about that, any opportunity that CNN can take a cheap shot at Joe Rogan, they will do it. Why? Because CNN is a direct competitor of Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is their competition. Joe Rogan is getting millions and millions of downloads a day for his podcasts. CNN's barely getting viewers. So they're constantly going to go after someone like Joe Rogan, hoping that their viewers, their brain dead viewers that are not quick to this, that we're going to show you here, don't realize that Joe Rogan is onto something. Joe Rogan might actually be correct on something. So listen to this.
I don't think anybody's going to be crying too hard over that guy.
Yeah, maybe his family, but that's about it.
Yeah.
It's a dirty, dirty business. The business of insurance is gross. It's gross. And especially healthcare insurance, just gross.
I have to say, I mean, this is so weird. Yeah. But a man was murdered in the streets of New York. And I mean, there's a conversation that's happening now about that stuff, but it's so interesting to see how quickly it's turned to health insurance executives are bad, actually. And that's the moral of the story.
Yeah, I mean, two things can be true.
That's not the moral of the story. That's not even the moral of that clip they just showed you. Did he mention Brian Thompson? Did he mention Brian Thompson? Did he mention United Healthcare? The other guy did, and even then, it wasn't trying to sympathize or celebrate the violent attack. All Joe Rogan was saying is that healthcare industry, the privatized insurance industry of healthcare, is a dirty business, which it is. Everybody's aware of it. Everybody's aware of it. They're even admitting to it. But they're trying to they're trying to take this opportunity to take cheap shots at Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan is their competitor. And anytime they can take a cheap shot at him, they're trying to make it sound like it's good. When really, they're the ones protecting the dirty industry of privatized healthcare. And Joe Rogan is correct on this. That's why people on all fronts, whether you're on the left or the right, are uniting on this issue. They're actually coming together in support and understanding of how corrupted the private healthcare industry is.
At once. The healthcare industry can have major problems. It can be, as Joe Rogan was saying, a dirty, dirty business. But also a human life was taken, a father, a husband, also on the streets of New York. You know, I live in New York City. I could have been easily walking by right when that happened. Somebody else could have been killed. And so these two things can be true at the same time. And I think it is very disrespectful, not only to...
Disrespectful. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less from these guys. I wouldn't expect anything less from CNN. These are the type of people. And you'll remember when certain dignitaries, or when they had the, funeral procession for George H.W. Bush, or they had for Donald Rumsfeld, or they had for villainous warmongers that we know are absolutely immoral, soulless creatures. These are people to never be trusted, never give them an ounce of light to the horrific damage they have done to not only America, but the planet as a whole. And you have people like CNN or MSNBC, when they're doing the funeral coverage, when they're telling people, oh, look at him. He was a father. He was a husband. He did such great things because he's a human being. And the people on social media are the ones that have to remind everybody, while they're whitewashing the rhetoric and history and the disgusting villain persona that they give up. They're trying to whitewash it and make them look good. People on social media have to remind people, this is who that person is. And that's what Joe Rogan is doing. He's trying to remind people that regardless of who the CEO is, I don't care if he's a husband or a father or anything like that. I'm not condoning the murderous act. I'm condemning the murderous act. There should have been a better way to approach this, but it happened, and people sympathize with the fact that they got screwed over by the healthcare industry. And you notice how the CNN discussion is not talking about how we can fix the healthcare industry. They're not talking about that. They're too busy morally shaming people by saying, hey, don't talk about it because he's a human being. Don't talk about it. And Joe Rogan's just an awful guy for even bringing it up. He didn't even mention the murder. He did not even mention the murder. He's saying that the healthcare industry is deeply dirty and corrupted.
A human life, to somebody who was killed, to the people of New York City, but also to the debate that we could be having about the healthcare industry when you put it in these terms, when you celebrate something like this. Because, A, I'd like to see Joe Rogan say that to the face of the CEO's wife and his kids and see if he'd have those same tones when he's actually confronted face to face with that human life.
I'm not alone.
I like to see that too. I like to see Joe Rogan tell this guy's family, do you know what your father does? Do you know what his industry does? Because, yeah, you may be getting a good amount of money. You may be living in a fancy house. You may be, getting your kids a bunch of Christmas presents and wonderful gifts through the holiday season. Do you know how he gets that money? Do you know how this is coming to play? Because I don't think they do. I don't think they understand. And the people that don't understand this are supporting the CEO. There's two types of people. Either people that have never been fully ill to the point that they need hospitalization or they need to go see a doctor. Either those people that are supportive of the CEO, or you're getting financial kickbacks from United Healthcare, which undoubtedly CNN's probably getting advertisement dollars at this moment for having this conversation, for talking Joe Rogan, for trying to put him up in the corner and saying, how dare you talk about him? How dare you talk about this open murderer in New York City? This wacko guy that somehow just took a gun out in the middle of the street and shot this guy. How dare you? He's a human being. So now, here's Piers Morgan.
You said, healthcare executive down with party balloons was on a next post that you commented on. Why would you be in such a celebratory mood about the execution of another human being? Aren't you supposed to be on the caring, sharing left where, you believe in the sanctity of life?
I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Serious?
I mean...
Joy at a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Of Americans that being murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And the many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
But why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
I think because it wouldn't fix the
You seem
system.
to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question funny.
A bloke's been murdered in the street.
So there's a lot of coverage like this. I'm going to stop it because I'm not even dealing with this. They're completely missing the point, and I feel like this is purposely done in the media, that they're trying to make this into this debacle of how do you not support the life of a CEO, even though he's part of this destructive healthcare industry? How can you not support the life of him? Why are you laughing about an open murder? Don't you care about blah, 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 blah? They're doing this purposely to distract it from the original point, which is that the healthcare in America is awful. It's awful. Not only is it awful, but it's diabolical. It is diabolical. Go out to the streets right now. Go talk to someone in your town. Go talk to anyone. How they deal with private insurers, and they would probably all agree that it's awful. It's disgusting. It's demoralizing. There's no intention of healthcare. No intention. But that's the only option they have. The only option they have, because they don't even mention the public option, which will allow people to have choice. It will allow people to have choice. Do you want a basic public service, basic public health care? The same way that Australia operates. You pay into a basic health care plan that's operated under, public money, public tax dollars, that has you the basic coverage. And then if you want to extend that coverage, if you want, say, cosmetic surgery, you go into private insurance. But the fact that Americans don't even get that, and the fact that right now, things like Medicare, which is the most popular healthcare program for senior citizens, the most popular in the country, is on the chopping block. Medicare is on the chopping block. How come none of that ever gets mentioned in any of these conversations? It just keeps going back to the same goddamn garbage I hear all the time. Don't you care about the life of this guy? It's an open murder. It was New York City. The streets are not safe. They do it intentionally to distract you so that you keep arguing and making this into a 1 versus 2 argument and not talk about the consensus of how awful the healthcare is in America. So that no one is going to retaliate. No one's going to co-opt together and actually fight for healthcare. Fight for basic coverage. Which is what they were trying to do with Bernie Sanders. They were trying to do that Tulsi Gabbard. And that completely failed. Why? Because the Democratic Party came in and squashed that. The Democratic Party that ran for year after year after year. Medicare for all, public option, healthcare. What have they done? Squashed it. Every single time. Even Trump was looking towards the Australian model. He said he was going to look into healthcare in his campaign during his first presidency. What happened to that? Nothing. No counteracting that. No holding him accountable to that. No. But no, everyone's going to get distraught and angry, and we're just going to put ourselves into these corners. Oh my God, the horrific mess in New York City, the chaos. Oh my God, these CEOs that might be massacred. Well, maybe they wouldn't be massacred or even thought about massacred if they actually did the right thing. You ever thought of that? I'm saying this as someone that condemns the violence that Luigi Mangione did to that one CEO. I condemn that. I don't condone it. I don't support it. I condemn it. But I understand the frustration of people. And if CEOs are so worried that it could happen to them, what does that say about the business you operate? Because you notice how they're not going after the CEOs of, Sparklets or the CEO of Apple. They're not just going after random people. They're worried for health insurance companies. Why exactly those people? Why exactly specifically those CEOs? Because Joe Rogan was right on about that industry is completely dirty, is a mafia, It's disgusting. It's demonic. It's diabolical. And does not give a damn about healthcare. Does not give a damn about healthcare. You're better off laying in your dying grave on your deathbed in a hospital so they can pull out and extract as much money as possible, denying you coverage, than you are a healthy human being. And that's what these people are. That's what big pharmaceuticals are. They have the same business model of not helping people. They don't want to help people. They don't want healthy human beings. They want to prolong your illness as much as possible so they can capitalize and take the money at every step and turn. So they can deny you coverage. So they can tell you you're worthless after you paid a lump sum of money to these people to insure you. Where's that investigation? Where is that investigation? Where's the news media topping that? Because there's countless stories of that.